makes sense to do 10 ways men impress women. So let's go. 1. Penises. Look, if you have a small todger...
Psalm 139, 13 through 16. Oh yes, you shape me first inside then out. You formed me in my mother's womb. I thank you, high God. You're breathtaking, body and soul. I am marvelously made. I worship in adoration. What a creation. You know me inside and out. You know every bone in my body. You know exactly how I was made, but a bit how I was sculpted from nothing into something like an open book. You watched me grow from conception to birth. All the stages of my life were spread out before you. The days of my life are prepared before I'd even live one day. 1 Corinthians 12:23 through 24. But I also want you to think about how this keeps your significance from getting blown up into self-importance. For no matter how significant you are, it is only because of what you are a part of. An enormous eye or a gigantic hand wouldn't be a body, but a monster. What we have is one body with many parts, each its proper size and its proper place. No part is important on its own. Can you imagine eye telling hand, get lost, I don't need you, or head telling foot, you're fired, your job has been phased out? As a matter of fact, in practice, it works the other way. The lower the part, the more basic and therefore necessary. You can live without an eye, for instance, but not without a stomach. When it's a part of your own body, you are concerned with it. Makes no difference whether the part is visible or closed, higher or lower. You give it dignity and honor, just as it is, without comparisons. If anything, you have more concern for the lower parts than the higher. If you had to choose, wouldn't you prefer good digestion to full-bodied hair? Galatians 6:9 through 10. So let's not allow ourselves to get fatigued doing good. At the right time, we will harvest a good crop if we don't give up or quit. Right now, therefore, every time we get to the dance, let us work for the benefit of all, starting with the people closest to us and the community of faith.
2. Drinking. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good drink, obviously. But there is nothing sexy about a guy who drinks too much.
Ephesians 5:18 through 20. Don't drink too much wine. That cheapens your life. Drink the Spirit of God, huge draughts of Him. Sing hymns instead of drinking songs. Sing songs from your heart to Christ. Sing praises over everything. Any excuse for a song to God the Father in the name of our Master Jesus Christ. 1 Peter 5:8 through 11. Keep a cool head. Stay alert. The devil is poised to pounce and would like nothing better than to catch you napping. Keep your guard up. You're not the only one plunged into these hard times. It's the same with Christians all over the world, so keep a firm grip on the faith. The suffering won't last forever. It won't be long before this generous God, who has great plans for us in Christ, eternal and glorious plans will have you put together and on your feet for good. He gets the last word. Yea, he does. 1 Corinthians 6:9 through 11. Don't you realize this is not the way to live? Unjust people who don't care about God will not be joining His kingdom. Those who use and abuse each other, use and abuse sex, use and abuse the earth and everything in it, don't qualify as citizens in God's kingdom. A number of you know from experience what I'm talking about. For not so long ago you were on that list. Since then you've been cleared up and given a fresh start by Jesus, our Master, our Messiah, and by our God, present in the Spirit.
Pretending you're someone you're not.
John 8:44 through 47. If God were your Father and Jesus, you would love me, for I came from God and arrived here. I didn't come on my own. He sent me. Why can't you understand one word I say? Here's why you can't handle it. You're from your father, the devil, and all you want to do is please him. He was a killer from the very start. He couldn't stand the truth because there wasn't a shred of truth in him. When the liar speaks, he makes it up out of his lying nature and fills the world with lies. I arrive on the scene, tell you the plain truth, and you refuse to have a thing to do with me. Can any one of you convict me of a single misleading word, a single sinful act? But if I'm telling the truth, why don't you believe me? Anyone on God's side listens to God's words. This is why you're not listening, because you're not on God's side. Ephesians 4:29. Watch the way you talk. Let nothing foul or dirty come out of your mouth. Say only what helps, each word a gift. James 3:1-2. Don't be in any rush to become a teacher, my friends. Teaching is highly responsible work. Teachers are held to the strictest standards, and none of us is perfectly qualified. We get it wrong nearly every time we open our mouths. If you could find someone whose speech was perfectly true, you'd have a perfect person in perfect control of life.
Or being a dick. Now, this happened to me recently with a guy, and he eventually told me that he liked me, but up until that point, all he did was take the piss out of me. We're not at school. We're not 12 anymore.
John 15:13-15. I've told you these things for purposes, that my joy might be your joy, and your joy wholly mature. This is my command: love one another the way I loved you. This is the very best way to love. Put your life on the line for your friends. You are my friends when you do the things I command you. I'm no longer calling you servants, because servants don't understand what their master is thinking and planning. No, I've named you friends, because I've let you in on everything I've heard from the Father. Hebrews 10:24-25. So let's do it full of belief, confident that we're presentable inside and out. Let's keep a firm grip on the promises that keep us going. He always keeps his word. Let's see how inevitable we can be in encouraging, loving, and helping out, not avoiding worshiping together as some do, but spurring each other on, especially as we see the big day approaching. 1 Peter 5:6-7. So be content with who you are, and don't put on airs. God's strong hand is on you. He'll promote you at the right time. Live carefree before God. He is the most careful with you.
7. Being too sexual. Bear with me on this one. Now, this actually happened to me about 2 weeks ago. I don't know if it's because men think it's sexy to be like that, or if they're trying to be some sort of bad boy or something. But for me personally, if someone says this to me on a first date...
Ephesians 5:3-4. Don't allow to turn to lust, setting off a downhill slide into sexual promiscuity, filthy practices, or bullying, greed. Though some tongues just love the taste of gossip, those who follow Jesus have better uses for language than that. Don't talk dirty or silly. That kind of talk doesn't fit our style. Thanksgiving is our dialect. 2 Corinthians 12:20-21. I do admit that I have fears that when I come, you'll disappoint me, and I'll disappoint you, and in frustration with each other, everything will fall to pieces. Quarrels, jealousy, flaring tempers, taking sides, angry words, vicious rumors, swelled heads, and general bedlam. I don't look forward to a second humiliation by God among you, compounded by hot tears over that crowd that keeps singing over and over in the same old ways, who refuses to turn away from the pregnancy of evil, sexual disorder, and indecency in which they swallow. Galatians 5:19-21. It is obvious what kind of life develops out of trying to get your own way all the time. Repetitive, loveless, cheap sex, a stinking acclamation of mental and emotional garbage, frenzied and joyless grabs for happiness, trinket gods, magic show religion, paranoid loneliness, cutthroat competition, all-consuming yet never satisfied wants, a brutal temper, an impotence to love or be loved, divided homes and divided lives, small-minded and lopsided pursuits, the vicious habit of depersonalizing everyone into a rival, uncontrolled and uncontrollable addictions, ugly parodies of community. I could go on. This isn't the first time I have warned you. You know, if you use your freedom this way, you will not inherit God's kingdom.
Showing off. I don't like it.
Matthew 18:1-5. At about the same time, the disciples came to Jesus asking who gets the highest rank in God's kingdom. For an answer, Jesus called over a child whom stood in the middle of the room and said, I'm telling you, once and for all, that unless you return to square one and start over like children, you're not even going to get a look at the kingdom, let alone get in. Whoever becomes simple and elemental again, like this child, will rank high in God's kingdom. What's more, when you receive the child, like on my account, it's the same as receiving me. Philippians 2:1-4. If you've gotten anything out of all the following Christ, if his love has made any difference in your life, if being in a community of the Spirit means anything to you, if you have a heart, if you care, then do me a favor, agree with each other, love each other, be deep-spirited friends, don't push your way to the front, don't sweet-talk your way to the top, put yourself aside and help others get ahead. Don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. Forget yourselves long enough to lend a helping hand. Ephesians 4:1-3. In the light of all this, here's what I want you to do. While I'm locked up here, a prisoner for the Master, I want you to get out there and walk. Better yet, run on the road God called you to travel. I don't want any of you sitting around on your hands. I don't want anyone strolling off down some path that goes nowhere. And mark that you do this with humility and discipline, not in fits and starts, but steadily pouring yourselves out for each other in acts of love, alert at noticing differences and quick at mentioning.
And 10. And finally, not texting back.
1 Corinthians 7:17. And don't be wishing you were someplace else or with someone else. Where you are right now is God's place for you. Live and obey, love and believe right there. God, not your marital status, defines your life. Don't think I'm being harder on you than on the others. I give this same counsel in all the churches. Matthew 19:10. Jesus' disciples objected. If those are the terms of marriage, we're stuck. Why get married? Jeremiah 16:2-4. Jeremiah, don't get married. Don't raise a family here. I have signed the death warrant on all the children born in this country, the mothers who bear them, and the fathers who beget them. An epidemic of death unlamented, the dead unburied, dead bodies decomposing and stinking like dung, all the killed and starved corpses starved up as mills or cannon crows and mongrel dogs.